Good day, scholars. If you're watching this video, you're looking at page 2 of your nonfiction review packet. And this page actually looked at internal text structure. At the top of the page, you're provided some graphic organizers. And why I want us to look at this is because it's really important to see that sometimes a way to understand information is actually to draw it out or attempt to organize it. So in compare and contrast organization, you're going to see truly things such as this, a Venn diagram, okay? A Venn diagram is there to compare and contrast. Remember, on the outsides of the Venn diagram are your contrasts or your differences. The inside of the diagram are your comparisons, the things that they have in common. So compare and contrast goes with this Venn diagram. And one of the things that I want you to notice is in terms of the types of words that you might see with it, signal words. You might see these, similar to, although, unless, in contrast, wow. These are signal words or words that prompt you to think, whoa, if I see this in the reading, this is probably a compare and contrast text structure, okay? The text is probably organized compare and contrast. Again, a Venn diagram helps to support your understanding of that. You need to know for just life in general, but for the test as well, that compare means what the things have in common. Contrast is what are the differences, what do they not have in common. In the chronological sequential text structure, I felt like you guys did beautifully on this. And this is really looking at things in either time order, which is chronological, or sequential order, which is event order. For your purposes, it's really in order, okay? For this text structure, you may see an organization that looks like this, past, present, future. Could be a timeline, okay? Timeline's a great chronological sequential organizer. You might also see steps like step 1, step 2, step 3. Think of like an instruction manual or a recipe book. Those are put in step. For this type of signal word, you're going to see to begin with, most important, another, next. They're kind of telling you what to do along the way. They're putting it in order for you. For this text structure, remember we did the full t-shirt folding. This is a great example of chronological sequential. Cause and effect, I think, is one of the most challenging, and it's because it's so similar to problem and solution. But what I remember for cause and effect is I always try to think of a science experiment. Your effect is always what happened, the results, okay? Your cause is why that happened. So again, your effect is what happened, the results. The cause is why something happened. So think about in the 2 days with no phone article. In that, we were looking at the results of, or the effects of not having a phone for 2 days, right? Those would have been our effects. But why did they do that? They did that to see what life would be like without the phone. That's our cause. For this type of text structure, you could see, for example, words such as a result, since, reasons for, thus, so that. These are great signal words for cause and effect. In addition, the type of organizer that you might see is something that looks like this, where there's maybe 1 or 2 causes and lots of effects. Think about it. For example, if Miss Russell is doing like you're doing, I study for the test, right? I study for my upcoming benchmark. That would be my why. That's why, that's what I did, right? The effect of that, of studying, might have been an A on the test. Maybe I get praise from the teacher. Maybe my parents take me out to dinner. All of those are kind of the results from studying for the test, okay? In problem solution text structure, this is truly where the writer will present a problem and possible solution. You could have multiple problems and multiple solutions. For this one of the things that you might see are very similar words to what you saw in cause and effect. You might see an as a result, okay? Because, to solve this, therefore. For your purposes, assume that most problem solutions are going to say, a dilemma that we're feeling is, and then they may tell you the dilemma or the problem. Or a possible solution might be, they're going to be really direct with you. In this type of graphic organizer, you might see something like this. You could also see something like this. The last one, we put these together as generalization description because a lot of times in describing something, you end up generalizing about it. But a description is really where you're describing an object, a person, a place, or a thing. And you might use an organizer like this. So for example, in class, we were reading that magazine article from the Washington Post magazine about the lock. And in the center, we might have put lock, and then all the ways to describe that lock. Remember, it was an ordinary lock. It was one that the gentleman speaking, his daughter had given it to him. All these things help us describe this one object, okay? But remember, he also said in that article, he said some people don't even use their locks. That's where we get the generalization, okay, with the some. For this type of text structure, you're going to see things such as this. For example, involves, contains, made up of. One I remember as a kid reading was a teacher had done a descriptive piece on summer. And it was all of the things to describe summer, the smell of summer, the experience of summer. All of that is descriptive. Okay, guys, at your very bottom, I gave you a compare and contrast selection because I tend to feel like this is the text structure we see the most. Okay, and you will see a compare and contrast on your test. If you look in this, here is a reading about the author, okay, because it's written in first person and really the author is writing this, but also the author talks about friends Jamal and Doug. Now in this, you're going to notice a couple things that I have underlined, a couple things that I've highlighted, because those become a part of my annotations. They're what are really important to understanding the text. So after reading the text, you should have read through it. Let's look at some of the questions. So the first question is, what is one comparison between Jamal, Doug, and the author? Remember, a comparison is what is similar, okay, between these three people. So what's similar about Jamal, Doug, and the author? The answer for this one is C, that they share an interest in acting, okay? If you notice in the text, I actually bolded and changed the color and underlined this section. Each of us enjoy acting, and we met working on the camp play. This tells us right here that what the three of them have in common, okay, is that they all enjoy acting. If you look at A, Doug doesn't like sports, so A can't be it because they don't all share it, okay? They just met at camp, so they can't be friends for a long period of time, okay? And then where it says they hope to become writers, it never even mentions that in the text. And that's one thing that you have to notice for yourself, is one way to trick you as a reader is they may put in an answer choice that isn't even here. Always go back to your text to check. If you look at question number 2, it says a contrast between Jamal and Doug. You're going to notice that I created a Venn diagram, one of my graphic organizer options, to help me with this question. So I put Jamal and Doug, and I have on the outside all of their contrasts. And then the inside, I put their similarities. So here it's asking me for contrasts between Jamal and Doug. So I'm looking for a difference because contrast means difference. So if you notice, let's start from the bottom. Jamal applied for the Summer Olympics, though Doug has not. This is never mentioned in the text, okay? So that's an easy distractor. Get rid of it. Doug is a talented actor, while Jamal gives weak performances. Again, we're never told this in the text. We just know that they all like acting. We don't know how good they are at it. And B, it says Doug is the narrator's friend, but Jamal is not. And we know that's not true. They're both friends with the author. And if you look back in your text, right, the author tells us, I made 2 close friends. Okay, those were Jamal and Doug. Then if you look here, Jamal loves sports, Doug does not. Here's my Venn diagram, okay? Jamal was athletic and interested in sports. It said in the text that Doug was not. Here is the contrast. So I use that Venn diagram, that graphic organizer, to support me. I would suggest doing that on the test as well. It helps to really organize your information. If you look at the last question in this section, question 3, it says according to the passage, and here's where it's asking you to really draw a conclusion. So the first one says the narrator has nothing in common with Jamal. And we know that that is not true. Jamal is athletic, and here our narrator, as well as the writer in it, spends free time doing gymnastics and dance. I would consider that to be sports, right? So both her, the writer, and Jamal both like sports. If you look here, the narrator has most in common with Doug. We're not given that information, so we can't draw that conclusion. If you look at D, the narrator has nothing in common with Doug, okay? Here's the reality. They're all friends, right? They all enjoy acting. The narrator has something in common with Doug. But if you look at C, the narrator has the most in common with Jamal. I think this is probably our best bet answer. And this is what I said. The narrator likes gymnastics, a sport. Jamal also likes sports. So in addition to liking acting, the narrator also likes sports, which is something that Jamal has in common with the narrator. Okay, a couple other things I want us to note here. You can see that I highlighted however and on the other hand and although we are different. These again are signal or keywords for compare and contrast. My suggestion to you is in that internal text structure foldable that you got, really read those signal words. They're going to help you so much as you explore the upcoming benchmark. All right, this is the end of page 2. Happy studying.